we're both string performers ourselves. We're both, you know, you're a viola player, I'm a violinist. And certainly in the context of Fenella's pieces, the things that we're here at Snape to work on with her, my piece was something that I wrote with the instrument in my hands. I don't know if it was the same for you, but I wrote with the instrument in my hands, recording sections of it, seeing if they worked, stitching it together piece by piece by that.
Terrifying Fenella.
Well, right, terrifying Fenella, yes, because I don't have to worry about whether it actually all works in one go. I mean, Fenella, in her brilliance, has shown that it is actually possible. But
no, this is actually the first thing I've written for years and years and years with the viola in my hand, because I haven't possessed a viola until very recently, and I now have this instrument because my daughter's become an instrument maker and she's made me viola, and so suddenly I have this instrument and I'm playing again after 15 years, and this is the first piece I think that I've ever written, sort of at the viola. I used to use the piano a lot when I composed, but I don't think I've ever composed sort of on a stringed instrument, and I did try out a lot of this piece on the viola, just to make sure that, you know, that it felt, I mean, I couldn't get anywhere near it.
But did you find that the act of playing itself suggested the next section of material? I mean,
it did, yes, because I mean, using the resonances of the open strings, of harmonics, and also sacrificing my sort of systems or my little note sets or whatever, because it would sound so much better if I just stuck an open string in the middle of that, you know, rather than fighting to get those exact notes. So I was much freer in the composition of it. So I was using the instrument to dictate some of the pitches because of what felt good and what sounded good, rather than sticking rigidly to my systems.
And what were those systems? What would you, what element of the composition process did you find was not about the instrument but about your own abstract musical thinking?
Well, this was an unusual piece for me also, in that I decided I was going to write a fugue and challenge myself by doing that. And a lot of my music is descriptive, it's inspired by landscape, by literature, by outside influences, and I very rarely just do something that is a fugue or some set musical form. So it was a way of pinning myself down and saying, right, you should be able to do this. And it was quite an exercise, you know, in sort of finding out how very difficult it is to just simply to write in a pure musical form without any sort of painting, which I did very much in the Entrada, in the first movement. It's very much inspired by the fact that it's going to be premiered in St Magnus Cathedral, which I know very well, and it's inspired by Norwegian folk music, folk fiddle playing.
Hardanger.
Yes, yeah. Exactly, the Hardanger, and the playing particularly of Niels Økland, which I happened to have been listening to. And then when I found out it was going to be done in this Norwegian-built cathedral in Orkney, it was just perfect. So the Entrada is very much to do with atmosphere, to do with playing the acoustics. And so Fenella and I have been talking about getting rid of the bar lines and holding notes as long as they need to be held in that space. And the ornamentation is very much to do with folk ornamentation and not necessarily exactly what's on the page. So there's that kind of writing, and the piece ends with it as well in sort of palindromically. It's played backwards at the end and disappears into nothing. But in the middle is this very academic fuga, which is very much inspired by the Bach. And in fact, I'd marked it far too fast, and it just sounded a little bit stressed. And I suddenly said to Fenella, "Can you play the A minor fugue," which is what it was sort of inspired by? And it was miles slower than what I'd written, and it works perfectly. Played at exactly that speed. So that was really interesting.
It reminds me actually of an experiment I remember reading about that was conducted once, talking about that thing to do with sonorities in a cathedral, where they took a Bach chorale and gave it to a choir to perform, and there was one rule, which was that rather than following the music in strict metrical time, each singer simply had to sing each note to the full extent of their breath before they took the next note. So actually what you end up with is a completely different piece, but all these amazing harmonies and sonorities, which are just essentially overlapping wedges of sound, which harmonically works, but because everybody has different breath capacities, so it ended up as a...
So you're giving me an idea for another piece now. That's really inspiring.
Well, yes, I never actually heard what it sounded like, but it just sounded like an intriguing idea.
So tell me about your piece then. Where was the starting point for that?
Well, the thing that strikes me very much about the Bach sonatas and partitas, which are the sort of pinnacle really of the violin playing canon in many ways, they are, everyone every professional violinist is expected to have got someone under their belt at some stage or other. And I think, well, we both know as string players that Bach generally is something that will always feature in your training. But the thing particularly about the sonatas and partitas that's really striking about them is that they convey a complete and very rich musical universe in a sort of a sealed unit, emotionally and technically, but all using what's essentially one musical voice. So they're very complete, and I'm fascinated by the way that he does that. And the way he does that, obviously, is through arpeggiation and through implied secondary lines, in secondary implied counterpoint, and so on. And really, my reaction to that was, I just would like to be able to do something similar, using similar techniques, and just write a 10-minute piece as per Fenella's request. And what I ended up writing was a little set of variations. There's only about 5 variations, but the basic principle is that arpeggiation, broken chords, and treble stopping as well as the arpeggiation, provides the harmonic context around which things can be made to happen. So I just wanted to it sounds very sort of nebulous what I'm describing there, but I wanted it just to be musically very appealing, but to convey this simultaneous harmony, rhythm, melody, and contrapuntal voices in the way that Bach does, all using one instrument, and that's what I ended up doing, and just exploring those techniques, but within the context of my own musical language rather than Bach's, and so it ended up being called the arpeggiario variation. So it's about the arpeggiation nature and how that's used to suggest harmony, mostly.
And what's the is there a theme that the variations relate to?
There's an opening theme which is based on triadic, an A major triad and a D major triad, which forms their broken chords. That forms the theme, but there's no programmatic element in similar way you were describing. I often am also drawn to writing pieces that are in some way connected to something I've read or seen or whatever. But like you, this one wasn't that. It was more of an abstract piece, really, or rather existing on its own musical and technical terms, rather than being related to anything else. And Fenella's dealt with it amazingly. I mean, there are challenges in all these pieces, all 6 composers that all of us that have done them. Yeah. And she's really risen to the challenge, and it's exciting to see.